Yeah, it's getting recorded, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So add binary. We are given two binary strings, and we need to return their sum as a binary string itself. And input strings are both non-empty and contains only the characters 1 or 0. So this is A and 1 1 and B is 1. And when we add these two, we'll have 1 0 0. Same for this. And each of the string will consist of only 0 or 1 characters, and their length would be less than 10 to the power 4. And each string is either 0 or doesn't contain any leading zeros. Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. So any queries or approach? How did you look?
Seems like we can convert it to number first, add them, and again convert to binary. That is one, I think, brute force way of doing it.
So you'll convert them to integer. I mean, normal decimal, right?
Yeah, integer.
Okay. And then convert it back to binary.
Convert it back to add them, like, and then convert it back to binary.
But how can we convert a string of numbers which are already binary into an integer?
It's
2 raised to the power.
2 raised to the power. So 1 is 2 raised to the power 0 into 1. Then 2 raised to the power 1 into 1. That will give us...
sorry, 1. Huh? Yeah.
So you will be multiplying each and every digit.
Some logic there. It should not be that tricky. I
think
you
Java
can
has
take in
library function to do that, right?
Yeah. Function, but the logic for that function is like we have function like in Python we have been, in Java also there might be. Yeah.
But if there is no function, still it is doable.
Yeah. So then, but you'll be doing an extra traversing the string. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to traverse both the strings, converting to number, add them, and again traverse the entire number and not traverse, like convert a simple function to convert a number to a binary, and yeah.
You can just take a variable initialize it with 0. So whenever you hit the first one, so 2 raised to the power that variable into 1, and again increase that variable by 1. So it will be 2 raised to the power that variable. That means it will be 1 and multiply it by that.
Yeah, no, I'm telling like converting back to binary.
Decimal. Okay, sorry. No, got it. No, I was saying how to convert it to decimal part.
How to convert? Okay, got it.
Yeah.
That's good.
So if I don't know anything, I will do that. Seems like here some specialized or like additional information needed how to add two binaries. If you don't know that, then can't do anything.
Yeah.
But
the interviewer will force us on doing that. Not that way. He will say no.
Yeah, that is like giving one solution. Like you told, like instead of being blank, you told, okay, I have one solution. Then have a dialogue with interviewer that what exactly he or she is looking for, and then look for hints, and then try to see. I think adding two binaries is not that tricky. Only you need to know what exactly it looks like. So we know 10 plus 11, how it works. There would be some carry. It will go to the next thing.
Yep.
There is only two rule in binary, like 1 and 1 if you add it will be 0, and 1 and 0 if you add it will be 1, and 0 and 0 will be 0, right?
Yeah, 1 and 1 you add, it will be
0 and 1 carry.
It will give a carry, yes. And if you add 1 and 0, it will be 1. There won't be any carry.
Yeah. So only two rules are there, I think.
No, but it's if you have 1 and 1 and you also have a carry, it will become 3. Still, it would be the carry. It would be 1 and the carry would be 1. So you got it? What I'm saying?
Yeah, got it. 3 ones if you'll have 1 1 1. So you can break it into 2, 1 1 0, again 0 plus 1 1. So yeah, like you can check that also. Good. Mm. Yeah, you want to share code, anything like?
Yeah, I can share.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So this was the one which was telling that it could be so it's a simple function that keep on adding by 2 raised to the power some I and converting to binary to decimal, and again decimal to binary is again a logic. You keep on checking the last last bit should be 1 or 0 and keep on divided by 2. So this function is as good as doing I think, yeah, and this is as good as reducing by
Or left shift.
like, yeah, so basically they both are same.
No, I
You
think that should be right shift. Right
oh,
shift when we do, then we divide. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
so technically that both functions are same, the one
No.
this one and this one, but that was not what we're trying to solve. The solution which we are looking for is the other one. So here, I think like Shashank mentioned, what are the rules we have? If it is 1 plus 1, that should be 0 with carry 1, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
And if it is 1 plus 1, 1 plus 0, it would be, it
One.
should be 1, and there and carry would be 0, right?
0. Mm.
And if it is 0 plus 0, then it should be 0 again. Carry would be 0. And if it is 1 plus 1 plus 1, basically you are adding the carry to your thing, then it should be again 2 plus 1, 0, 1 with carry 1, correct?
Yeah.
So I think these are the only rules which you are playing with. So here we have a carry 0, sum will be 0. It will take correct I, which would be like, if it is 1, it would be 49. If it is 0, it would be 48. So doing a minus from that will give us, if it is 1 minus 0, it will become 1. Same here, 0 minus 0 will be 0 or 1 minus 0, 0, and we are also reducing our j and I. Then result would be like, is it string? So just appending in the start. There are other ways of doing also. We can use a string builder and reverse it at the end. But so initially, for example, if we have seen 1, we are just adding 1 here. It will become 1 1. So basically, it will put at the start. That's it. And so this is like check. If the sum is 2, it will result into 0, and here the carry would go as 1. Like if the sum was, so same rules. This is our sum.
Yeah.
So if the sum is 0, then we are adding, our result would be 0, or whatever we have seen. We just append it to whatever we have seen last time. And here the carry would be 0. If the sum was 1, then the still it will add it to 0, but the carry would be 0. And if the sum was 0, then both would be 0. And if the sum is again 1, okay, the sum is actually 3 here, sorry. Then carry would be 1, and the result would be again 1. I think I should have split that. Should have done better way of doing it. Should also put result here. But that was the whole crux.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I think if you know it, it's good. Otherwise, for me, if I don't know it, it would be difficult for me to come to this.
Yeah, it happens.
4 rules, yeah.
So there is one more thing what they talk in the solution, saying, okay, if you were restricted in using an addition operator. So like what would you do? Like there is that bit manipulations, right? The way they do it using XOR. Or then I thought, like the way you are actually splitting, say the same, you can create the lookup table the way you did, So that also doesn't involve any operations of any addition operations, right?
Yeah.
So he has to create 4 such keys, right? 111 will give.
Yeah, maybe a switch statement, something like that, just a function.
Okay.
Just put in all the 3 parameters and get these values. That might also work.
But bit would be more like elegant solution.
I don't know, but
using bit
manipulation. Bit manipulation is slightly difficult to come up sometimes.
Yeah.
Because XOR again the way you're showing up with the carry might be slightly tricky sometimes.
Yeah, XOR of 2 same numbers is 0 always. So one XOR 1 is 0, and XOR of 2 different numbers will always be like, if you do 1 and 1, it will be 0, and if the numbers are different, it will be 1. So it's following the XOR principle only. XOR, I mean 1 plus 1 is 0, 1 plus 0 is 1, and 0 plus 0 is 0, and again 111. That means 2 1 will give you 0, 0 plus 1, again it will be 1. Yeah, XOR works perfect. Yeah, that easy. But we need to observe that XOR is like we can apply, and since you told, then only.
No, it's just mentioned there, but when you actually look for the carry, you have to be careful because we have 3 parameters, right? So because they say you shift it to the right or left, instead of that you can do an add also, because you are actually using the carry in the next operation, not in the current operation. So yeah, there are different ways to do it.
No, but it's good that you bought that XOR idea. Like, it's another one.
Right. Yeah. I just went through the solution. So
yeah.
So one variation of this problem which I faced was if you have given 2 numbers whose values in decimal is more than 10 raised to the power 18, then how you will add those both numbers? So that we can do is using this method, that string. We can put both numbers in the string data type, and then we can add using this way.
The way Asim is presenting, right?
Yeah. You can't store long int is storage for long int is 10 raised to the power 18 only, not more than that.
XOR also you can use XOR because XOR avoids that problem, right? I mean, if you add, it would increase 10 raised to the power 18, but XOR won't create that problem. That's why I think XOR is efficient in such cases.
Okay. I haven't done using XOR. Okay. Yeah, this approach.
No, I think he's talking about the first approach which Asim presented, right? The one converting to an integer value.
No, I'm talking about this one, storing in string. Because if you have given a number whose value is more than 10 to the power 18, in which data type you will store? You can't store it anywhere. You will use string only.
Yeah, that is why XOR will come into operation. I mean, it will rescue from that. Like I have read article like XOR helps to avoid the integer overflow, something like that. If you do normal addition, you can overflow.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is
yeah. You
cool.
can open this question. Yeah. Okay.
And the time complexity of both these operations. It's like
order of n, length of a string. Yeah,
length
it
of
should be
string,
that.
yeah. M plus n or n plus m, whatever it is.
Whichever is bigger.
Right. And I think he did everything in place, so no extra space, correct?
Yeah, exactly. We are return.
It depends, like, so if you are doing a string operation, then it depends. I think, but how Shashank is doing is putting in the result list, and after that he's just reversing them.
At last year, I think here space will be extra space. But if that is an output space, then we shouldn't consider it, right? Yeah. So mine is a normal one. Like just I'm taking each what you say binary number and converting it to the integer and just normal addition. But it will fail in somebody was saying that 10 raised to power 18. In that case, I think it will fail. Then XOR will only be work. XOR will work most probably, I think.
Okay.
So any other or somebody has said done apart from this anything?
So, but when you say 10 raised to the power 8, you are actually looking one letter at a time, right?
No, I think he's the entire sum of the string. I think he's saying.
No, that is fine. But in your case, you are looking at only single.
Yeah. Only single. What you say, number or string, whatever. Yeah.
So your case should not be a problem. This one should work, correct? Or am I missing something?
I mean, we have to check such input for that, right?
Because you are actually taking one letter at a time and then actually totaling that and then doing, right? So you won't have an integer overflow, correct? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it shouldn't be it.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Then let's proceed to next then. So most frequent subtree sum. We are given a root of a tree and we are asked to find the most frequent subtree sum. And the subtree sum of a node is defined as the sum of all node values found by the subtree total at that node, including the node itself. So what is the most frequent subtree sum value? And if you find a tie, you need to return the value with the highest frequency. So if you see here, they return 2, -3, 4 because all are happening only once. So you can return, but here you can have 2, and when you do total sum again, you'll have 2. So 2 is repeating 2 times. So we are returning this 2, and -5 will appear only once. And you may assume that sum of values in any subtree in the range of 32 bits signed integer. Yeah. Any queries like approach in this? Yeah.
So actually, if you, it's slightly not very clear in the sense, do you have to look at these frequencies of each and every sum at only a subtree, which is having leaves, correct? Or it is all over, all the way?
I think at all the nodes you are supposed to look. That's why we are looking first here 2, one time it's appearing, and then at the root when I do the total, I mean sum of these 2 leaves plus the root, here again 2 will come, right?
Okay, so first I have to calculate a particular subtree which has 2 leaves or 1 leaf.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then that will be my final answer for 5. So, but if there is another parent for 5, okay, so this will be my sum for 5. That will be the final one, correct?
Yeah. They should have given some more examples, but they have ended here
So,
itself.
yeah, so here in this case, so see the first example. So
Okay.
so for node 2, so sum is 2. And for node -3, sum is -3 for that node. And for the parent node, sum is again 5
4.
and plus 2 -3, so 4.
Yeah.
So the frequency for all these sum 2, -3, and 4, frequency is 1. So all these sums should be in your output as the frequency is 1.
So for the 5 node, we'll have all the 3. All
Yeah,
these
definitely.
three
Left plus right and the root.
No,
Yes?
you have to calculate the frequency of the sum.
Maximum.
How many?
How
many? Yeah. So there may be possible that there is the same sum. So which may appear multiple. Oh no,
times.
sorry, my bad. Yeah. So there is a sum which may appear. What is the frequency for that sum? If the frequency is same for different sums, so you have to put that sum in your output.
Yes.
Right. So you are saying for this example 1 for node 5, you'll have to output all the 2, -3, 4 because the frequency is 1, correct?
No, not for the node 5. That is for you have to return. So your output is based on the frequency, sum of the frequency.
Okay, I agreed. But what I'm saying is, why I'm saying 5, because if I had another parent to 5, right?
Yeah.
So because I will do it some way, at a particular node and then calculate with the way up. Okay. So
yeah. If there is a parent for 5, let's say 6, right?
6.
So what is the sum for that node? 6 plus 4?
10.
10. And the frequency for 10 is still 1. So that will also go in your output.
Answer, exactly, yeah.
So you will take all these 3 and then actually do for that 6 also. This correct,
yes.
Right? Yeah.
So yeah, so you have to your output will be based on the frequency. So if you have only one frequency, say like if somehow let's say 4 and let's say the parent for 5 is -2. So then the sum for that node will be 2, right? So in that case, frequency for sum 2 is 2 because 2 is at the leaf and then 2 for the parent root node. So in that case, the output will be only 2.
Yeah.
Because
that is what second example says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's say if the parent of 5 is value is 0, right? In that case, we're going to return 4, right? But we return twice. We return an array of integer but with 4 and 4. Is that right?
No, we have to return only the because that sum is 4. So we have to return only 1 4.
So okay. So if we have multiple 4, we return only 1 4.
Because that will just increase the frequency for 4.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That increase the number of frequency. Okay.
Yeah.
Just return that key whose frequency is highest.
Right.
Like, you know.
Yeah, but if the frequency is always going to be 1 and it goes up all the way up, so we'll be adding many numbers to the top, correct?
Yeah.
1. So you'll return 1. Like it will have only the top frequency.
No, the frequency remains 1 throughout.
Okay. Then you have to return all the sum.
All nodes. Of the node values almost, yeah.
Yeah. If somehow, this is what's happening in the first example.
Yeah, that would be the worst possible case, what you're talking.
Yes.
Yeah, if somebody wants to share code.
So here,
no, I think if it all 1, then we return 1, because if it all 1, that means the leaf will be 1, right? And with 1, that means there are multiple 1 on the leaf.
No,
The
what he was saying that if the sum is different, but the frequency for those sum are only one.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Shashank, can you take an example and explain? I'm still confused.
Sure. It's like can have it. So it's like, I mean, they have 5 minus 2 and this 5 minus 5, sorry. So this is plus 2. So if you start from the leaf nodes, for to here your left child is 0 and right is 0, your total sum is 2. So it's occurring only once. If you go for this, here again left child and right child is 0, your sum, it's occurring only once. But if you go to this, the left sum, it will return a sum of 2 and it will return minus 5. So here your sum is what? Again 2. So you'll increase the frequency by 2. So highest, so if it is your dictionary, then this key is having the highest, frequency. So you'll return 2 from here.
Okay, we'll return only the highest one. Like
highest one. Yeah.
Frequency is like 111, then we will return all.
All. Yeah.
Okay.
But if we have a frequency of 2 for many of these nodes, so then we'll return all of them also, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, if someone wants
so
to
like
share.
The way can be done, is, do in a sort of a DFS or a post-order traversal of a tree, and get all the sums when you actually traverse both the left and right nodes. Okay.
At every node,
at every node, and then just use something like a hash table or maybe unordered map in C++, and then keep on incrementing those that particular sum, okay, with that frequency. Because in an unordered map, we'll keep the value and its frequency, right? So when you come out from that DFS or those post-order traversal, you traverse the whole map, okay, and find out whichever has the maximum frequency.
Highest.
The highest frequency. And so whatever is the highest frequency, pick up all those elements and then return them.
Corresponding key,
corresponding keys or maybe the values of the nodes, right?
So can you share the code? Like, should be.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
It's visible, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here what I was saying is, use this unordered map. Okay.
It is a hash map only, unordered map, right?
Yeah.
In C++, okay.
Yeah. Hash map or hash table, it is access is O of 1.
Okay.
So I'm using this helper function and I'm just passing this root node. Okay, and then this map. Okay, so this is a simple post-order traversal, the helper one. So I keep on traversing to left and right and return all these values here, whatever the values of those particular sums or the particular node. And this is what actually you do here. You add the root value and the left and right, and then just put that in the map with its frequency, keep on incrementing the frequency. So actually when I come out of this, here actually I go through this whole loop again, okay, and then look for whichever is the maximum value of the frequency. And then whenever I find the maximum value of frequency, whenever I find a value which is more than what I had previously found, So I always keep on clearing my vector, results vector. And when I find the final one, actually, I keep on pushing back. So at the end, I will have the latest one, which has a maximum frequency.
Yeah.
You can keep track of the max, right? So that you don't need to go to that for loop again on line 33.
Yep, can be done. Could be do it. I could have optimized a lot further, but yeah.
So this is like finally you are putting everything into hash map and then comparing the maximum out of it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Even I could have done in the helper also, find the maximum value here itself. But getting it over here and doing that, yeah.
Yeah, it's
more explicit, but yeah.
Intuit explicit, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So time like same DFS order of n only, post order you are traversing.
So like Leon said, you still need map to hold the value, right? Like hold each sum.
Yes.
The for loop you don't run if you keep a maximum counter. If you keep on checking if it's exceeding max, right?
Come again?
So you will still need map in the what Leon said, right? You will still need map. You cannot get away with map because in your tree, you may have like one sum appearing on the right side, the other sum appearing on the left, and you still want to have the sum.
Maximum.
Right?
Yeah, map is always required. Yeah.
The only thing you avoid is going into for loop if you put the if condition while you are adding element to the map.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the only thing. Yeah.
Right.
A bit optimization is there.
Yeah.
So time will be like order of n only, right? Every node you are visiting.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, and order of n space.
So it's the same thing, I guess.
It's a
like you still can. So in here you are checking map, the size of map you will do. So current solution in the size of map you traverse and check if it is exceeding the max value or not. Like you're finding maximum out of map. And what Leon proposed is when you construct, you continuously check if it is a keep max. One variable and continuously check. It's the same, even not even bigger notation, but otherwise also it's the same complexity. You are every insert you are checking.
Right.
Passes will be less, like extra pass will be avoided. What for loop is using?
No, but in the other one you will. So if there are 100 elements, out of 100, say 10 is only unique ones, right? In what Leon proposed, you will do the if condition for 100 times. Whereas in this case, you will do just 10 times, you will check for what is the map value. So I take it with a bit of a grain of salt, say which one is better approach.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
No, the other one, you can have a variable or something in helper class, and you can avoid the for loop. This for loop in find frequently.
That's what I'm.
I'm
addressing that.
Yeah.
So you can have that, and what is saying, you come to the here, just look for those numbers.
Yeah, just have the maximum value like variable with the maximum value, and get all the values with that value. That's it.
No, but that maximum check you are doing every time you update your map, right?
Right.
So what I'm saying is, if there are 100 nodes, you will do
100. Yes, right.
But if there are, say, if there are duplicates, right? Like I get some 5 equal 5 times I get, and then 6 I get, say, 15 times. And so what I mean is, if there are 100 sums, but only 10 of them are unique. So in your map, you are holding 10 values, not 100 values. So when you do for loop like what is displayed here, you would iterate your map for only and do if condition only 10 times and not 100 times.
How you avoid that putting the value back in the map?
I'm not avoiding at all. That's what I'm saying. This approach, depending on what the actual values that map is holding, could be better or may not be better, you know.
No, it could be definitely better, I guess, because
so how it could be better?
See, when you constructed this map,
okay,
you will have to, in the other approach, what Leon and who somebody suggested, that you keep a variable where you keep track of what is the maximum sum in the variable. So to keep track of maximum sum, when you update a map, you will have to check, oh, did I exceed the maximum or not?
Okay, so what about if you exceed the value?
Then you reset your max variable, right?
But still you are putting the value in the map.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. You cannot avoid putting the value in the map.
Then someone was saying that you can optimize the map also.
No, not the map, but
the map can't be optimized.
You need to have all
drastic improvement. Yeah.
The only part what I can see here is that is possible to optimize that where
for loop
is not the for loop. I mean, in the for loop, he's putting value back in the output array. So instead of putting value in the output array and clearing that, that's part only I think can be optimized with this extra variable.
That's correct. But if you put another value, like a global value in the recursive function, it is okay. But if you use that as a parameter in function, then might be slightly, I don't know.
There may be so many ways to actually solve that. So I avoid completely because I know the crack. So I completely avoid this for loop and use the sorted map and a sat inside there to keep the value. But I know that, I mean, if in terms of complexity, my solution is not better than your solution because every time I'm updating my map, so it's actually log n.
Can you share that, please?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I kept thinking more in Java terms and you guys on C, so C++, so that would differ a little bit.
No, that's correct actually. You should always look at different languages also.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to avoid the for loop, so I just actually use that map.
Okay.
Yeah. And directly my sat has only those values which will go in the output. But I know it's not better than your solution in terms of big of. I just wanted to, I was just a bit lazy to type.
Yeah, but this is a good way of doing too, right? Why? Okay, but you're using an extra data structure that one.
Yeah, extra data structure and then updating this map here every time. So that's a log n every time, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you're in the map. Yeah.
I guess I liked the earlier Santosh solution better for that reason, from the complexity.
Yeah, in terms of complexity, yeah, definitely its solution is better than mine.
But whenever you need to, getting a workable solution is always best because sometimes you won't be able to do it perfect implementation in an interview. So whatever, even if you use more data structures, that's still fine, I would say, Yeah,
I mean, wherever possible, I always try to avoid writing more and more code because writing more code, more error.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so if interviewer is okay with that, and you can share that trade. That why, if he or she still wants to go with that, so you know that you can do that. But to avoid that or to come up with the fast solution, so
needs promotion.
Well, in interview, you won't be able to come up with a lean solution in a first shot. That is, I would say.
Exactly. Yeah.
Never. So whatever your thought process, whatever comes to your mind, keep on writing it, and then you can optimize. That's good.
I mean, sometimes, I mean, if you are lucky and your brain works on time and give you the correct direction, that lean solution, so you may come up. But yeah, that's not always true.
Yep. So therefore, I always encourage, whenever we are having these sessions, we look at more problems in different approaches. That is always better, because you keep on understanding different ways of thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's more helpful.
So the name of the function is pre-order, but you are doing post-order, right?
I'm doing pre-order.
Left, right, and then operating on the node, right? So that's a post-order, no?
It depends on what you call as a pre-order, post-order, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, just like I thought pre-order.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Let me stop.
Yeah, sure.
To use a sound.
Yeah. So it's same as yours, like what you have shared. I made a dictionary and then DFS calling on the root. There's a global variable which would be maximizing your value. And for every node for every sum tree, when you see, if you see it for the first and that is equal to max, just append it to your result res and just return it. And it's a normal post order, left, right, and then summing up and putting it into the dictionary.
Okay.
No.
So, but your if node and then the return 0, that won't never return 0, right?
If your node is null, I mean, for leaf, your 2's right, left is 0, 0, no. So that will return.
So that is your base case.
Yeah, base case you can consider. Because 2's, definitely base case. Because 2's left is 0, right is 0, so it will return 0 to 2. So that 0 plus node value 2. That means the sum will be 2 at this level. 2.
Yep.
Yeah, any queries? So we can switch to next.
Yeah.
Okay. No, let's switch. So this nesting array problem. Your zero indexed array is given to you of length and which would contain integers from 0 to n minus 1. We need to find and return the longest length of set S, where this is the condition. A of I will be subset of that and those, and subject to the following rule. Suppose the first element in S starts with selection of this of index I, the next element in S would be A of I, and then so on. By that analogy, we stop adding right before a duplicate element hits or occurs in S. So if you see here, if you start from here 5, so if you see at 0 you have 5, then you will go to fifth index. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, you'll go to 6. Then you hit 6, you'll go to 2, and when you reach 2, this is which index? This is a 6th index. So you'll go to 2, you'll reach here. Sorry, you'll hit at 0, and 0 is again 5. So you again reach to 5. So that is the longest one. 5, 6 to 0. From 5 you will go to 6, 6 to 2, and 2 to 0, and 0 to again you'll reach 5. So that is the longest here, and it's an integer. Element of A are all distinct, and each element of A is an integer within range.
But we didn't compare with anything. Was there any other candidate?
Pardon?
To have a longest, there should be some contenders, right? Who are the other contenders? Who are the other?
They haven't tried here. I mean, you could have started from 4, next one. Like this is the one length you got. Next you start from 4. So if you start from 4, from 1, so you'll go to 4. 4 will be what? This is your 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll go to 1, and from 1 again you'll go to 4. So only 2 length you are having, right?
I see.
From 4 to 1 and 1 to 4. So if you do more, it will be lesser only. This is the maximum one that you will encounter the length.
So basically, we have got a brute force one. We already have a brute force solution to start with.
Brute force, yeah. Only here you can do bit manipulation to optimize it, like slight modification.
Why bit manipulation?
No, I'm saying bit manipulation.
Because I think you will have to go through each and every index, correct, to find out which is the best.
Definitely. Yeah, explore everything. Yeah.
If we start with 0 and we come to the first solution which has 5 or 4, whatever it is, but then again you switch to the index 1 and try to find out how many things items you can reach, then go to index 2 and then 3 and 4 till n. So that we'll have to do anyway. So I don't think we can avoid that, right?
In place you can do some.
One thing is, if we are defining the set as something which starts and ends at the same index, for example, the one that we started with 0th index, the loop ended at 0th index. Okay.
Yes.
So if in that set, if we start from any other value in that set, because it is a closed loop, it will of course come to that, it belongs to that set only. It will of course fall in that, after all the jumps, we'll come back to the same endpoint. Correct?
I think it will do for all the indexes.
Oh, right? He's saying that you can't pick any of the elements out of this set because it will, you will again fall.
What I'm saying is, basically, we started 0, okay? We ended at 0. If we start with 2 also, we'll end with 2. If we start with 6 also, we'll end with 6. Because after you do the whole jumps, then because this is the kind of digest set, so to say. This is the signature set. Okay, condensed.
Definitely,
set.
It will, because it's a loop only. 5620 is a loop only. So yeah, whichever element.
So one optimization I can think of is first one, let us start with 0 and just see what is the create our set if 1 is possible. Okay, and then then we'll start with another index which is not in that set, because if we start with any number which is in the set, we'll obviously end up in that set only.
Yep.
No, but the problem is, like, if I start from 4 and if I hit 2 after that, then you may have a longest path. You are telling only if we start from any of these elements, we'll hit here. Let's say first I'll start with 4, I'll go to 2, then I may go to 3, I go to 0.
But then
that won't happen.
Yeah, you cannot come back to 0 then.
Yeah, I think what Rajinder mentioned, that's correct. So when you start with 0, so you put those whatever element you visited, so you can put in a visited set. And then when you check the next element, so make sure that if you have not visited, only go with that route.
Yeah, like the DFS and BFS, what we do, put up something sort of visited node in a set or so. Yeah.
Because if you already visited that one, so that will become a cycle. So you will find the same set what you already actually explored.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But only if we start from any of the indexes which are already present in this set, right?
How we will know the length if we are starting by the visited length, the longest one?
That you can keep track that how many number of element in that set.
No, how will you compare it with other? Yeah, sure.
So one thing, if you look at the sum problem statement, what it says is you can have 0 to n minus 1 integers, correct?
Okay.
So that actually itself, even if this cycle 5602 whatever it is, if you go for any other number other than that one, so it is still going to form a cycle for those numbers. So that is the way it is, because you have the set of numbers which are only from 0 to n minus 1.
Minus 1, huh?
Yeah, and your array size is always n.
Yeah, huh?
So you'll always have a cycle but the cycles will be of smaller sizes.
Smaller one. Yeah.
So what Rajendra is saying, and also Praveen was saying, put whatever you have encountered till now, just put in a visited set, something like that. So you don't go to that loop again, because it's always going to be the same. And each and every, you'll always have many cycles in that. So whichever is the maximum, you actually optimize that to find it, right?
We may not have a cycle at all, right? Let's say suppose that the value at index 0 is 0, then no cycle there.
But that is itself a cycle, right?
0 to 0 self cycle. Yeah, it's a nice observation. Yeah, so self loop is final return.
Because that is what they have explained in that problem statement. Yeah. The whole thing, what they're trying to say is the same.
Yeah.
And Shashank, why was thinking that bit manipulation will help? So what was the intuition here?
No, bit, not that bit. I was saying just like in place something we can do. Not the bit, that binary bit.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I mean, since then I was thinking, I mean, how can bit will help?
No.
Okay, got it.
I think you are doing a lot of bit manipulation these days.
Yeah. So because of that, it got. Because the last problem also was bit. Might be bit can also work. I don't know if you have given, if we can think.
But if you use bits, manipulation integers, it avoids a lot of space. So it is always good, to keep that in mind and to try. But yeah, in this case, I'm not sure. Yeah.
No, but solution becomes very easy with bits. Like if we get bits and then, I mean, less number of codes you need to write and everything.
It actually depends on the problem. Some problem can even become complicated if you try to do it using bits.
Exactly. Or like DP with bit masking, if you do all those things become bit complex, but there are some problems which will become very easy with bits. And
bits you can use
is also faster.
Yeah. So bits you can use when actually you are using them as a lookup table. That is more easier to use also, right?
Implement,
So in this problem, this array A is like an adjacent matrix for a graph, and we are trying to find the largest component. That's it, right?
Largest cycle, no.
No, largest component.
He's saying that if you have an adjacent matrix, and
this looks like this array looks like an adjacent matrix where each node has a link to next node. Yeah.
So 5 will have nodes as 6 to 0 adjacent place, right?
No, 0 node has a link to 5, and 5 node has a link to 1, and 1 node has a link to 4, like that.
You can think that way, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a graph, and we need to find there are multiple components in that. So we are finding the largest component.
Is it not the cycle? We started with 0 and ended at 0. Then only we know it is one full set.
Yeah.
We are almost, they are all cycles. Only the largest cycle we have to come up with.
Every number itself is a cycle. Like, no, it's not necessary. No, it's not necessary. Do you want to share like how graph? I mean, it's a unique.
No, I didn't solve it. I just realized it when we are discussing about the conditions and how to solve it, like what are the things we need to handle. So I just felt it like this array is an adjacent matrix, and we try to take any element and try to find the components which are added into visited, and then we need to see which are the elements which are not visited, and that would be another component in the graph.
Right. It is similar like for a graph problem. You can say that, but it has cycles everywhere.
Yeah, and here we will definitely have one node, one link to each node. Like we will only have one link to one node.
Yeah, 1 to 1.
1 to 1,
yeah.
So they are like islands everywhere.
This is one island, biggest island, 5620. So union find you can use after that, right?
I don't know. that will be too much.
I mean, just like what he's explaining.
Yeah. That is possible. Now, when he said that, it opened some more, what you say?
Ideas to think. Yeah.
That's good observation, right? I actually did a very simple way. So yeah, I think you also did the same thing, right?
Yeah, it's like normal. What I did, just I visit. I'll show you. It's normal, like just marking, giving -1. I mean, earlier we had discussed this one. So we have approached like 5 is here, and then what is it? 540, and next is 3162. 3162. I just did. I think this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So first time if you visit, just make it -1 and take 5 your value before putting -1 and go to index 5. Then put -1 over here, and you take 6 out of it, and you go here, put a -1, and you take the 2, you go here, make it -1, and take this 0, you reach here. So the moment you hit again -1, that shows that you are in a cycle. One cycle you got, again you start from here. What is it? 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're avoiding an extra space.
Yeah, extra space in place I'm doing here.
But it will take n square time, right?
It will not.
It will be O of n, right?
It will be O of n.
It will be O of n. Because it is visiting only one node of once. And you are actually stopping when you visit something, right?
Yeah.
It's O of n.
From that point, otherwise it looks like we are again, the diagram shows that it's order of n square, but we are visiting only once. That's true.
Yeah, because of the -1 thing.
But the next iteration, to find where to start the next iteration, if you are not using a set or a map, then you'll go linearly probing from the beginning, right?
Yeah, how do you compute the length then?
No, next time I'll hit here. If I see that I have seen -1, I'll skip that what you say element, and I'll proceed from the next. I think what Rajendra was saying.
No, but you need to compute the path, right? The length of the path.
Not the path, just the length. So as soon as he will start, so he will reset the counter, and as soon as he reach the negative value, he can compare with the previous max.
Update it here.
When he completes one cycle, he will update that max path.
Okay.
I'll show you.
That may not happen always, right?
See what I did. Yes, I'm just updating the max, right? Which see, first time if I see like it's already -1, I'll just continue, do nothing. Then what Praveen was saying, just make count to 0, length to 0, and as long as you don't hit to -1, just to the number which I visited, I'll put a -1, and I'll take that index out of it and go to the next one and increase the length and just update the max each time.
So it looks like you are doing it 2n at least, not 2n. Yeah, 2.
Yeah, exactly 2n.
Yeah. 2 and yeah, for every index I'm visiting here. Yeah, but I'm skipping also, no, right?
No. That's 2n, yes.
Yeah, 2n. Correct?
Yes.
How can we avoid that? We cannot avoid that.
If we keep a non-visited set.
Okay.
He's saying removing it from that set whenever we visit that.
No, that's the same thing what I'm doing. Creating the complete set itself becomes n log n. That is not.
You can use an unordered set in C++, where the access is only O of 1.
Yeah. So if we do that, so that is extra space though. So right. This is the advantage here is there is no extra space. There the extra space of order of n again we are putting, and then yeah, and then what is the benefit? The thing is we can always take so whatever is visited we can just delete that from that map while we are doing -1, and whatever is remaining on the top of the map you just start with that.
It's the way how you implement that.
I'm saying, yeah. I mean,
I would say, but I would say taking a map is again another data structure. So it is better to keep it compact and succinct like this. It is really, 2n is not a bad anything that is order of n is not a bad solution at all, because we need to touch each item at least once. So this is the optimal. What is that called? There is a book.
Yeah. The only trade here is that which we need to discuss with interviewer before going with this path, that whether we can modify the input or not.
Oh, yeah. So if you don't want to modify the input, then you'll have to at least use a vector. Sorry.
Yeah. No, even that work. Even the same can work. Instead of putting -1, just change the sign for the number -5, -4. And as soon as you hit
the same thing. Yeah. Exactly.
And if and after processing that array, if you can change the sign back, so you don't need to use the extra space at all.
Actually, there the catch point will be 0 and -0.
Yeah, exactly. That 0 -0 means what will you write?
It is the same.
Maybe then use some big number like int min, something like that for 0.
No, it's a good catch.
The whole point is, if you don't give any other number, then so the whole point why I think Praveen suggested to use negative is to basically preserve whatever value is there, so that in another iteration we can simply come and toggle all the negatives to positive, so that we'll have the array back. Is that correct, Praveen?
Yeah.
That was the motivation.
If interviewer said that you cannot modify the input.
Yeah. But then the 0 will be the sticky point.
Yeah, that's the tricky part. Yeah.
Had it started with 1, like 1, I mean, numbers will contain 1 to n, then what Praveen was saying, you can modify the number by.
But I would say, like, coming in an interview with extra space also is slightly challenging.
Good only, like.
Yeah, so whatever you come up with this till this far with an extra space will be great.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody come up with both the solutions, so they can discuss the trade.
Yeah. So then you can always discuss instead of implementing, because then you implement, you will make a lot of errors.
Yeah, this is what.
Yeah, so this is what the way you actually implement.
I think apart from this, any other without using X, no?
Yeah. So to Rajinder question, that for this particular question, so if you see the constant, so it says that all the numbers are distinct. So for 0, you can just have a flag and keep it separately instead of putting minus. We cannot put minus.
Yeah.
Yeah, a special case.
Yeah.
Int minus. We'll have to make sure that that value is reserved, excluded from the existing, allowed values.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the input is 0 to n minus 1, so you can take any value beyond n.
Yeah. Like int min, you can just put, and then at the end, whenever you see int min, you just make it to 0.
Why not n then? That is so predictable.
That is what they have used here, right? Number can be from 1 to 2. We can put a very large integer value at the position which has been visited. No. If somebody wants some other code to share.
I think I also have the similar one, so.
Yeah, you can share. Let's see C++ code.
Okay.
Yes, Shashank, one.
Yeah, sure.
And now, if you could, okay. When you go back to your screen, I'll ask. Okay, so line number 12, what does it do exactly? This is just a Python syntax question.
Yeah, just is if your current length is greater than mx, like mx already I'm updating, then
max. Okay. That is one
taking
line.
The max of length, yeah.
Okay. That is just a syntax. I don't. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
So I started with a very clumsy thing first.
Yeah.
The most inefficient way I did first is, I use this one, used and visited array also. And then I'm using a helper function. I'm passing this nums value and then this value and then the current index, but I'm doing it recursive. Okay, so I was doing this. That was my first solution, what I did. To come up with a recursive way and then return the path always.
Yeah, yeah.
And here in this path, actually increment the value of this current path, whatever I get here. Yeah, so I was using all these inefficient ways of doing that. Okay, so then I actually went to this one, okay, slightly modified. Let me go to the top. So here is the way actually you did, right? So using the iterative way, using this int max.
As long as you hit your...
Yeah. So I'm actually modifying it, making that value to int max always. So this is, I can't recover this array at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, makes sense.
Not a good way to do, but yeah, at least come up with
something.
It's good.
Yeah.